Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we'll be going through the analysis of the poem The Little Girl Found by William Blake from Songs of Experience. So, The Little Girl Found by William Blake tells the story of parents who search desperately for their lost daughter. During their difficult journey, a mysterious line appears and guides them. At first, they are afraid, but their fear slowly turns into trust. The line eventually leads them to their daughter, who is sleeping peacefully among tigers. In the end, the family lives peacefully with the animals they once feared. Through strong imagery and symbols, Blake shows human strength, faith, and surprising power of forgiveness and harmony. Okay, let us go through the poem in one go first. All the night in woe, like us, parents go over valleys deep while the deserts weep. Tired and woe begone, hoarse with making moan, arm in arm, 7 days they taste the desert ways. 7 nights they sleep among shadows deep, and dream they see their child starved in desert wild. Pale through pathless ways the fancied image strays, famished weeping weep with hollow piteous shriek. Rising from unrest the trembling woman pressed with feet of weary woe she could no further go. In his arms he bore her armed with sorrow sore, till before their way a couching lion lay. Turning back was vain, soon his heavy mane bore them to the ground, then he stalked around, smelling to his prey, but their fears allay, when he licks their hands and silent by them stands. They look upon his eyes filled with deep surprise, and wondering, behold, a spirit armed in gold. On his head a crown, on his shoulders down, flowed his golden hair, gone was all their care. Follow me, he said. Weep not for the maid, in my palace deep, Laika lies asleep. Then they followed with a vision led and saw their sleeping child among tigers wild. To this day they dwell in a lonely dell, no fear the wolvish howl nor the lion's growl. Okay, ji. So let us begin now with the first stanza. So, in this first stanza, William Blake creates a sad and serious mood by describing the deep suffering of Laika's parents. Normally, night is connected with rest and peace, but here it represents the parents' painful journey and emotional struggle. Blake also uses the image from nature, such as valleys and deserts, to make the scene more vivid. These places suggest the long and difficult path the parents travel while searching for Laika. The deserts are described as if they are weeping, which gives the landscape human emotions and reflects the parents' sadness. This stanza introduces the strong feelings of loss and despair that appear throughout the poem. In this opening stanza, Blake shows a universal human experience, the deep love of parents, the desperate search for a lost child, and the powerful emotions that come with such a situation. With this, we move on to the second stanza. Tired with woe begone, hoarse with making moan, arm in arm 7 days they trace the desert ways. So, in this stanza of the poem, William Blake shows how tired and sad Laika's parents have become while searching for their daughter. The words tired and woe begone clearly show their physical and emotional exhaustion. Woe means great sorrow or misery. Begone here means overcome or affected by. So, woe begone describes someone whose face and appearance clearly show deep sadness and suffering. The phrase making moan suggests that they are crying and expressing their sorrow. Hoarse means sounding rough and harsh, typically as a result of a sore throat or shouting. So overall meaning implies that their intensity and excessiveness of crying has led to their sore throats. The image of the parents walking arm in arm shows this strong bond and support for each other during this painful time. The phrase 7 days shows that they have been searching for a long time, which makes their suffering feel even greater. The word trace suggests that they carefully follow the path through the desert, showing their determination to find their daughter. The stanza highlights both the physical hardship and emotional pain the parents face. It also prepares the reader for the important events that will happen later in the poem. Third stanza. 7 nights they sleep among shadows deep, and dream they see their child starved in desert wild. In this stanza, Blake shows the mental and emotional suffering of Laika's parents. The number 7 appears again, emphasizing how long their painful journey has continued. Along the line 7 nights they sleep suggests rest, although the line 7 nights they sleep suggests rest, their sleep is not peaceful. The phrase among shadows deep creates a dark and gloomy atmosphere, suggesting fear, sadness, and uncertainty. While sleeping, the parents dream that they see their daughter starving in the wild desert. This image reflects their deepest fears and worries about her safety. This stanza shows that even when the parents try to rest, their anxiety and grief continue to trouble them. Blake uses these dreams to show how deeply the parents love their child and how much they fear losing her. With this, we move on to the fourth stanza. Pale through pathless ways, the fancied image strays, famished, weeping, weak, with hollow, piteous shriek. In the fourth stanza of The Little Girl Found, William Blake continues to show the deep sadness of Laika's parents as they imagine what might be happening to their daughter. The word pale describes how they picture Laika looking weak and lifeless, which also makes her seem almost ghost like in their thoughts. The phrase pathless way suggests that the place where she is lost has no clear paths, showing how confusing and hopeless the situation feels. The parents imagine Laika as famished, weeping, weak. These words describe a child who is very hungry, crying, and helpless. Using several sad descriptions together makes the reader feel the parents' fear and worry more strongly. The phrase hollow piteous shriek suggests a weak and painful cry for help, which increases the feeling of despair. This stanza shows how much the parents are suffering emotionally. They're not only worried because their daughter is missing, but they are also troubled by the frightening images they imagine in their minds. Stanza 5. Rising from unrest, the trembling woman pressed, with feet of weary woe, she could no further go. In this stanza of The Little Girl Found, William Blake focuses on the suffering of Laika's mother. The line rising from unrest shows that she is very troubled and cannot find peace or rest. Let me repeat. In the stanza of The Little Girl Found, William Blake focuses on the suffering of Laika's mother. The line rising from unrest shows that she is very troubled and cannot find peace or rest. The word unrest suggests both physical tiredness and deep emotional worry about her lost child. The lines, the trembling woman pressed with feet of weary woe, describe how weak and exhausted she has become. She continues walking even though she is trembling and filled with a sadness. These words show how heavy her sorrow is and how difficult the journey has become. The line she could no further go shows that she has reached the point where she is completely exhausted and cannot continue the search. This moment highlights her weakness and the great suffering she is experiencing. Through this stanza, Blake shows how far a mother is willing to go for her child. He also shows the limits of human strength when someone is overwhelmed by grief and worry. Now we move on to the sixth stanza. In his arms he bore her, armed with sorrow sore, till before their way a couching lion lay. In this stanza, William Blake introduces an important change in the story. The man carries his wife in his arms, which shows care, love, and protection during their difficult journey. This action also shows how they support each other emotionally even when they are suffering. The idea that the wife is armed with sorrow soul shows that she is deeply sad, yet she still continues the journey. This contrast shows that people can find strength even when they are feeling weak and vulnerable. Suddenly, a lion appears in their path which creates tension and suspense. The phrase couching lion describes a lion lying down, which makes it seem powerful and possibly dangerous. By introducing the lion, Blake adds a mysterious and spiritual element to the story. This moment suggests that something unexpected may help the parents in their journey and move the story towards a hopeful ending. With this, we move on to the seventh stanza. Turning back was vain. Soon his heavy mane bore them to the ground. Then he stalked around. In this stanza, Blake creates a moment of strong tension and fear. The lion appears to be a dangerous threat, and the line turning back was vain suggests that the parents cannot escape from that situation now. They must face the line, which makes the moment more serious and frightening. The description of the lion's heavy mane highlights its strength and powerful presence, making it seem even more dangerous. When the poem says the lion bore them to the ground, it creates suspense because the reader is unsure whether the lion will attack them. As the lion walks around them, the tension increases because its actions are uncertain. Blake uses this scene to build suspense and make the reader expect danger. Eighth stanza. Smelling to his prey, but their fears allay when he licks their hands and silent by them stands. In this stanza, Blake continues the mysterious encounter with the lion and shows a turning point. At first, the lion seems dangerous as shown by smelling to his prey, which makes the parents feel that their child and themselves are at risk. The word prey emphasizes the danger and makes the parents' fear stronger. But then the scene changes unexpectedly. The lion licks their hands, a gentle and caring gesture. This surprises the parents and shows that the lion is not a threat but a protector. Its kindness gives them comfort and reassurance. The contrast between the lion's first threatening actions and its later gentle behavior is a metaphor for life's surprises. It shows that danger can sometimes turn into help and things are not always what they seem. The lion, once frightening, becomes a symbol of safety and care. Through this stanza, Blake encourages readers to rethink their fears and recognize that support and protection can come from unexpected places, showing hope, trust, and kindness even in difficult situations. With this, we move on to the ninth stanza. They look upon his eyes, filled with deep surprise, and wondering, behold, a spirit armed in gold. So, in this stanza, Blake shows a powerful and magical moment as Laika's parents look into the lion's eyes. The act of looking upon his eyes creates a close and personal connection between the parents and the lion. Since eyes are often seen as the windows to the soul, this gaze allows them to see something deeper. The phrase filled with deep surprise shows their amazement and wonder at the lion's unexpected nature. As they continue looking, the lion changes from an ordinary animal into something mystical and extraordinary. It is described as a spirit armed in gold, meaning it becomes a spiritual or supernatural being. The golden armor symbolizes nobility, power, and divine presence. The word spirit suggests that the lion represents a higher, almost divine force. This moment adds a spiritual dimension to the poem, showing that the lion is more than a wild creature. It is a symbol of guidance and protection. Blake uses this image to show how unexpected encounters can transform understanding and inspire awe, encouraging readers to see the world in a more profound and mysterious way. Stanza 10. On his head a crown, on his shoulders down flowed his golden hair. Gone was all their care. In this stanza, William Blake continues the magical revelation as the lion, now a celestial being, takes on royal and majestic qualities. The image of a crown on the lion's head suggests not just earthly kingship, but a divine or spiritual authority. The golden flowing hair adds to the lion's grandeur, making it appear majestic and otherworldly. This contrasts with the earlier fear and uncertainty the parents felt. The line "Gone was all there care" shows that the parents' worries and fears, which had burdened them throughout the journey, completely disappear in the presence of the lion. This symbolizes spiritual relief and freedom, showing the powerful effect of the mystical encounter. Blake uses these images, the crown, the golden hair, and the lion's transformation, to show how a divine presence can ease human suffering. The stanza highlights a heavenly and uplifting moment, inviting readers to see the encounter as a symbol of hope, protection, and liberation from earthly troubles. With this, we move on to the 11th stanza. Follow me, he said. Weep not for the maid in my palace deep, like a lies asleep. In this stanza, Blake shows an important turning point. The celestial line gives instructions to Laika's parents, changing their journey from one of worry and desperation to one of hope and relief. When the line says, "Follow me," it gives them guidance and purpose. The lion's words sound like a command from a higher power, showing that it is now acting as a kind and protective guide, leading the parents towards their daughter. The lion reassures them with "Weep not for the maid in my palace deep, Laika lies asleep." This tells the parents that Laika is safe and resting peacefully in a magical place. The palace deep adds a fantastical and magical element to the story, moving the setting from the dangerous desert to a mystical realm. The lion's words give comfort to the parents and show that their troubles can be resolved through a divine or spiritual presence. With this, we move on to the 12th stanza. Then they followed where the vision led and saw their sleeping child among tigers wild. In this stanza, William Blake shows the happy ending and reuniting of Laika with her parents. The line, "Then they followed," is simple but powerful, showing that the parents trust the lion and follow its guidance without hesitation. The phrase "where the vision led" suggests that their path is magical and guided by a spiritual force, not just a normal physical journey. When the parents arrive, they see Laika peacefully asleep among tigers wild. This surprising image combines the danger and safety. The tigers are usually fierce, but here they do not harm. The contrast creates a magical and unusual scene. The wild animals become part of a safe and enchanted setting, showing a transformation in the natural order. This moment marks the end of the parents' long journey, moving from fear and worry to joy and relief at finding their daughter safe. Blake uses this scene to show how mystical or spiritual experiences can bring harmony, protection, and reconciliation between danger and peace, the wild and the gentle. With this, we move on to the 13th and the final stanza of the poem. To this day, they dwell in a lonely dell, no fear the wolvish howl nor the lion's growl. In the final stanza, Blake shows the ending of the story where Laika's parents find peace in their quiet home. The line "to this day they dwell" gives a sense that their happiness continues indefinitely, as if time has stopped for them. Their home, a lonely dell, suggests a safe and secluded place. The word lonely can mean they are physically isolated, but it also hints at being far from the worries and dangers of the outside world. The lines "nor fear the wolvish howl, nor the lion's growl" show that that the family is no longer afraid of the wild animals they once feared. This symbolizes that they now live in harmony with nature and have found safety and balance. The poem ends with a feeling of peace and stability, showing how their mystical encounter with the celestial line has transformed their lives. Blake leaves readers with the idea that extraordinary experiences can bring security, comfort, and lasting calm after a difficult journey. With this, we move on to the themes of the poem. The first theme is loss and despair. The poem strongly shows the theme of loss and sadness as Laika's parents desperately search for their missing daughter. Lines like "all the night in woe" and "while the deserts weep" capture their deep sorrow. Their journey through the empty and harsh desert mirrors their emotional pain and sense of hopelessness. The second theme is parental love. A key theme is which is a key theme, and it is the deep and unwavering love parents feel for their children. Even though their search is difficult, Laika's parents keep going. The line arm in arm, 7 days, they trace the desert ways, shows their determination and the strong bond between them, highlighting the power of parental love. Next theme is mystical redemption. The poem introduces a magical element through the lion who brings hope and help. At first, the lion seems scary, but it turns out to be a protective spirit guiding the parents to Laika in a magical palace. The lion on his head, a crown on his shoulders down, flowed his golden hair, gone was all their care, shows how the lion's presence brings comfort, safety, and relief rather than danger. The next theme is contrast between desolation and enchantment. Blake contrasts the empty, sad desert with the magical, safe palace of the lion. This makes the mystical parts of the poem even more striking and shows how hope and love can transform a bleak situation. The line, "To this day they dwell in a lonely dell, nor fear the wolvish howl nor the lion's growl," reflects this change. With this, we move on to the last theme of the poem, restoration of hope. The poem moves from sadness to happiness and hope. The lion's guidance and the discovery of Laika asleep among the tigers show a happy ending. The line, "Follow me," and he said, "Weep not for the maid. In my palace deep, Laika lies asleep," shows that hope and redemption have replaced the earlier despair. Now, we must go through the poetic techniques that are present in this poem. The first one happens to be imagery. William Blake uses strong mental pictures to make the poem more emotional. For example, "Over valleys deep while the deserts weep" shows the parents' long, hard journey through empty and difficult landscapes. Words like valleys and deserts help the reader imagine a vast, lonely, and sad terrain, which reflects the parents' despair. The second literary device is symbolism. The poem uses symbols, especially the lion. At first, the lion seems dangerous, symbolizing fear and threat. Later, it becomes a protective guide, symbolizing safety and redemption. Lines like "But their fears allay when he licks their hands and silent by them stands" show the lion offering comfort and reassurance. The next literary device is metaphor. The lion is described as a spirit armed in gold, which is not just a real lion but represents a divine or mystical force. The gold shows its power, majesty, and otherworldly presence. The next literary device is personification. Blake gives human qualities to nature, like in "While the Deserts Weep." The deserts weeping symbolize sadness and make the parents' struggle feel even more intense. With this, we move to the structure and form of the poem. The poem follows a clear and organized form made up of 13 quatrains, with each stanza having 4 lines. This consistent structure, along with an AABB rhyming pattern, gives the poem a smooth rhythm and makes it easy to read. The quatrain structure allows Blake to tell the story in small, organized sections. Each 4 line stanza works as a mini unit, helping the story flow clearly. This makes it easier for readers to follow the parents' emotional journey as they search for their lost daughter. The double A double B rhyme scheme adds a musical quality, making the poem sound harmonious and pleasing to read. The paired rhymes creates a rhythm that enhances the lyrical feel of the poem, keeping readers engaged. The paired rhymes also symbolize the pair of the mother and the father, the parents who go hand in hand in search for their daughter. And fight and go through all the dangers and problems. The mostly regular iambic tetrameter gives the poem a song-like narrative rhythm, which makes it easier to follow the story. The few deviations from the meter emphasize key moments like fear, wonder, or relief, adding emotional depth to the narrative. With this, the poem ends. If I hope you understood. If you've got any questions, please feel free